I'm in Ashland, Oregon, USA.
Now I'm getting a bit confused of where, because I looked on the map and I found Ashland, but it's up the top.
Nope, we're at the very bottom, right, 15 miles north of the California northern border.
What?
So
Oh,
the opposite,
in the wrong place.
the opposite of Portland. Portland's up north. We're about 5 hours south of Portland.
Oh, I went to Portland.
I was going to ask you about that pretty soon. That's on my list. Okay, so we'll start over. So we're speaking with Alex Southgate, and we're wondering where you're at today in England, Alex.
Okay, so I'm in Chelmsford, Essex, which is about, if you can imagine, about 15 miles out to the east of London. Excuse me. Yes, so that's where I am. Very hot, very hot day.
Off the air that it's kind of hot there. I'll tell you, Oregon is experiencing the worst heat wave we've ever had, and I'm sorry to hear you're having the same.
Oh yeah, it's probably not as bad here as it is there, because I did actually go to your area once when I was playing with Les back in about 2011, and it was, well, we went to LA and it was so hot, it was ridiculous. But we did end up going to up to Portland after that on the same.
What was your impression of Portland?
Amazing. Well, we all loved it. It was like, because we'd been to LA, we'd been to New York as well and other places, but Portland just had a vibe about it. It was, kind of cool, sort of young, lot of young people, music kind of vibe. It was great. Portland was really nice.
I was looking at your history, and before you hooked up with Les, you were with the band for 14 years, the Groove Juice Dance Band.
Oh, you've been doing some homework on me. Yeah, well, it's a covers band. It's a disco covers band, and because I'm a keyboard player, I'm a piano player really, but yes, I have to make a living. So I was lucky. I got into this band, and they were working a lot. So we did all the old soul music, 70s music, all disco. It was great.
And then, 2010 comes along, and next thing you know, you're working with Les McKeown from the Bay City Rollers, going to LA and Canada. How did that come about?
I was so nervous because what happened was I was doing these covers bands, and I don't know if you've been on the cover. I know you've done a lot of bands, but I don't know if you've been in the covers scene.
I have.
You have? Oh, okay. Well, what it's like here is you meet so many people. Just through other people joining the band and things like that. There's always a couple of deps in the band who haven't been in it before. And I met a chap called Darren Bazzoni, who had a studio near me, and he got me in. He was like, "Well, do you do sessions?" And I was like, "Well, not really, but maybe, I don't know." And he got me in to do a few keyboard sessions. And then one time he says, "Alex, I've got a great session for you. Les McKeown, Bay City lead singer of the Bay City Rollers." And I was like, "Oh, wow." Amazing.
How cool.
And I met them. I went and met, I spoke to Simon Mulvey a lot on the phone. He would arrange a lot of things. He was the bass player. And he was the bass player in Les McKeown's sort of iteration of the Bay City Rollers that he gigged with, after the Bay City Rollers. And yeah, we recorded the track, and it just so happened that they needed a keyboard player for a gig, and they got me in on the gig. And yeah, that was it. I was in it for about 3 years then after that.
Wow. Was it pretty exciting playing in the States for the first time?
Oh, it was intense. I mean, it was just like I'd never done anything like that before. And it just went from 0 to 100 miles an hour. Just, I think in the first year, we did a couple of weeks in New York, and we also went to sort of Atlanta, Annapolis on that same trip. And then we went to LA, Canada, Portland, and on top of that, there was a big arena tour in the UK as well, with some other bands, which was it was pretty intense. It was great though. I mean, what an experience! It was amazing.
Well, it must have gone well because you were obviously asked back more than once. Because in 2011, I think you did the Roller Mania theater tour, correct? Over 30 dates.
Yes, that's right. So basically, to give you a sort of summary of what I did, I did about 3 years, and I did a couple of the theatre tours and a few trips abroad and things like that, Germany, Ireland, and those type of places. And then I left. I went off and did my own thing, but I came back in about in 2019, and I went to Japan with them then. So there was a big gap basically.
How many dates, if you had to guess, how many dates did you play total with Les from beginning to end?
Probably about 500.
Wow.
Yeah, because the first he was doing like at least 100 a year. I mean, he was gigging non-stop. And the theatre tours were those theatre tours back in 2010 were like 30, 40 days, but the ones in 2019 were like 60 dates. He did so many dates. Yeah, everywhere he went there seemed to be a group of fans would come out, and it was amazing.
Did you get burned out at all, or was it easy to keep up, or was it hard?
Massively burned out. Like that's why I left, because it was just like I had my young daughter here as well, and it was just like taking over my life. I couldn't hack it. I'm not very rock and roll. You know.
Right. Les that was like his life, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And he was like he seemed to be built for it. He could sustain that energy, and still every time he'd do a gig, there would still be the energy there to connect with the audience. And yeah, it was pretty amazing, really. He was a unique performer, I think.
Did you guys I don't know, I don't really know much about you personally. Did you do any partying while on the road, drinking, that kind of thing, like rock star, or were you pretty much having to keep rested?
Well, yeah. To be honest, there were opportunities to do that. But for some reason, I'd done all that in my life when I was about sort of 25. So I was more like, I was always the one at the stage door with my thing was a pot noodle. Do you know what a pot noodle is?
I'm afraid I don't.
I mean, it's like really bad food, but it's just like a sort of cheap thing that you buy at the petrol station or whatever, that you pour water in. It's got dried noodles in it.
Like ramen noodles.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but just like not even as good quality as that. It's just like cheap food, but you could chuck it in your bag, and then all you need is a kettle. So at the end of the gigs, sometimes the guys they'd go off to the bar. I'd be there with my pot noodle, and I'd sort of stand at the stage door and chat to a few fans and things like that.
That's pretty cool. Do you have any particular gigs that you did out of the 500-ish gigs that stand out in your mind?
And I think the ones, obviously the arenas was big, and that was quite amazing. I mean, I got to play at Wembley Arena, which was like, if you're sort of a musician from the UK, Wembley Arena is like a legendary sort of place. So to walk out on the stage there was, incredible, really. Wow. But there were loads of them. There were so many gigs. I mean, they obviously you know what it's like when you're in a band. You have your good ones and your bad ones. There was a place called the Pitcherdrome in a town called Holmfirth, which is sort of in the north of England. And that was amazing because it would just seem to have a kind of vertical layout where you were on the stage and the audience were quite close, but some were up there and some were down there, and it just had a bit of a vibe about it. And I really remember that one the first time, and we did it again in recent years as well.
What was the last date that you played with Les and company?
My last one was Japan, in 2020. So it was Tokyo.
Wow.
Now that was an amazing gig actually, Tokyo, because Les would, I don't know if you know, but he would regularly go to Japan.
Yeah.
They had a great fan base out there, and there was like a sort of circuit of venues that he did, because I never got to go the first time, and that's what sort of hooked me back into it. And there was probably about 7 venues around Japan, and I did it with them in 2019, just a couple of weeks, and then we did it again in 2020, just as the COVID pandemic was starting. And yes, did 2 weeks there, and that was it. The last one was Tokyo, which was like a really big sold out one for the very last one.
So when COVID hit, that stopped you in your tracks?
Well, yes. What happened after that was they had another tour in Canada, and I'd said to Les, I can't really do that one, because I just didn't want to commit to being out there so long. And so they got the other chap who played the keyboard sometimes, a guy called Andy Stones. He came in and did the Canada tour. But what happened was they were only there for, I think they only did 1 or 2 shows, because COVID hit. This was like in March 2020, and it got cancelled. The whole thing got cancelled. I had to come home. It was a nightmare.
Wow. It still is. I mean, I can't wait till things change in a more permanent way, but it just seems so unpredictable right now with COVID. So I don't know what's going to happen.
What's happening in the US at the moment?
Well, it's each of the states seem to have their own way of dictating what's happening. Some states are completely, hey, we're reopening, everything is fine, it's all normal. Other states are like, nope, prepare, it's going to be horrible soon. It's really conflicting. I'm not sure who to believe half the time.
Yeah, I know what you mean there. God, yeah. Over here it's the same. It's like mixed messages.
Yeah, a lot. Governmental. There's so many different groups with different agendas. It's really hard to figure out sometimes. I'm just glad to see that live music has been returning to some capacity. A lot of live stream shows, a lot of outdoor shows are happening. So I guess we're adjusting to a new world, at least for now.
Mm.
Did you ever meet any of the other rollers, like the classics or any of the Bay City rollers outside of Les?
We did. We did a couple of gigs with Alan while I was in the band. So Alan Longmuir.
Yeah.
And so I think we were up in Scotland, and he sort of came in and joined Les on a few of the gigs, which was really nice. It's really nice because you hear the vocals. There was a certain, what was the song he did? I think it might have been, it was either Rock and Roller or Rock and Roll. No, I think it's called Rock and Roll Honeymoon.
Yeah, that was Alan's song. Yeah, that was
Alan sings that one
song.
Yeah, and if I'm right, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but certainly when Alan was on the gig, Les has said, right, we're going to do this song, a Rock and Roll Honeymoon, and Alan's going to sing it. And it was just so nice to hear that, a different voice there. And he played as well. Yeah, he played guitar. It was great.
That's so cool that he did Rock and Roll Honeymoon with Les's band. I didn't know that.
Fantastic.
So I hear you have a Les McKeown tribute CD in the works, which has been causing quite a stir and quite a buzz. And I'm wondering the details about that.
Okay, well, I mean, obviously, when Les died, it was a big shock. Yeah, everyone was in shock, and I just, I don't know what you're like, but when I write songs, it's usually because something is emotionally going on, and it sort of comes out, and that's just my way of doing it. So I felt I needed to write something, so I started just writing a few lines, and I came up with a few ideas, and I wanted to do something sort of for the fans, because a lot of fans were following me through the sort of association with Les, and I was doing a few like live things on Facebook and just, you know, just kind of just for fun, really, nothing too serious, just playing my guitar. And I mean, I did, you know, I was like doing cooking videos and things like that, just, you know, just having a laugh, really.
Yeah, totally.
But of course, when Les died, I didn't know what to do. And then I thought, after a while, I thought I'm going to do a live thing. I thought I really should finish that song. So I sort of tried to finish writing it. I finally came up with something and thought, oh, that actually sounds all right, you know. So what I'll do is I'll record it on guitar, put it on YouTube, and then I'll, you know, put a link out. And as I was doing it, I was like getting into it, and I was thinking, well, I could make the vocals sound a bit better actually if I, like, I don't know, layered them up and put a few harmonies. And why don't I put some drums on it? And it turned into this, you know, this big like epic kind of thing in my little room here.
Nice.
I sort of double tracking the guitars and everything, and then I thought, well, I'll just put a picture of Les and make a video, and just make that the video. And I thought, well, why don't I just put some pictures from gigs? And then of course that turned into a lyric video with all these like slow motion footage and different photos, just because it felt right. So, and then I put that out, and I put the lyrics on because I thought maybe if there's certain fans whose first language isn't English, then, you know, they might not be able to understand what I'm saying, because I sometimes sing in like a sort of weird accent. So, yeah, I put it out there, and people loved it. They really liked the song, and of course, people say, can we have it on CD? No, not really, because I can't make CDs. I don't know how to make a CD. But lots of people were asking, and I thought, well, maybe I can. And I sort of made a few inquiries, companies and things. I thought, actually, I could probably do this. And then I got this idea that maybe I could get one of the guys to play, like perhaps Scott, you know, might do a solo on it or something. And then it sort of snowballed, and we re-recorded the whole thing. So,
wow.
Yeah, we put like Darren Lee, who had been, you know, playing in the band as the drummer. He recorded the drum. They all did it remotely. I sent them the track, and they all recorded their parts. Sent me all these WAV files, and it just sounded so much better. I think because you sort of, you know, when you've got real musicians and they put their own little bits in, and it was just like, yeah, that's amazing. The solo.
How many, can we expect to be on the tribute?
Well, this basically, you've got the main track, which is the re-recorded version of the song.
Okay.
Then I've also put the original version on because I thought some people might just like that one because they've heard that one. And the only other track is an live acoustic version that I did. So there is only 3 tracks. It's like a single.
Oh, cool.
And the reason I put the live acoustic one on was because at Les's funeral, I got to go to the funeral, and the funeral director had called me and said, "I hear you've got this song, you know, and also we're having some music from Scott and Phil at the funeral. You know, the family would like some live music." So they played something, and then I got to play my song, which was a, you know, huge honor to play that.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, when I do the CD, I'll recreate that version and I'll put that on there as well. Because the whole thing about the CD was I thought people might want a bit of closure.
Great idea.
That was the thinking behind it, really.
Very unselfish of you. That's cool.
Well, the thing is that, you know, these fans, Les is like a sort of linchpin amongst them all. For a lot of people, I think, not just Les, but the band, and that what Les sort of brings is those live gigs. And if you take that out, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Not just because you're sad because he's gone, but just what it does to that group. And I just thought that it would be good to have something to focus on, really.
That's great. Is there an expected release date?
Yes, yeah. I'm taking orders now. And I'm expecting the first batch to basically tomorrow. I'm going to process the first lot of orders. So I've got about 200 orders in at the moment, and that's just been in about sort of 24 hours. So that's been really good. I don't know how many will get sold, but like tomorrow I'm going to send all those off to the company making the CDs, and then they're going to post them out. So hopefully in about a week's time, people should have the CD, which would be really nice.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations for having it.
I can send you one if you like.
That would be great. We'll play it on the show for sure.
Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely. What's in the future for you? Now that you're, completing this and that, some doors have shut, are there new doors opening, or do you have new plans for the future?
Well, I mean, I do a lot of accordion playing. So I kind of, that's the thing I really love is I play a lot in the sort of care homes and things like that. Very local, very low key sort of gigs. But it's really nice because you can play play whatever you want. And the people in the care homes really, really enjoy the music. So it's a very appreciative audience, and it's very direct as well. Like if you go in there in a bit of a bad mood, it rubs off on them. Whereas if you've got lots of energy that day, it has an effect. So I'm doing lots of that. I've been doing that for about 10 years anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. So I do. I'm out most days doing that, doing at least one.
Good work that you're doing. That's great, man.
It's a lot. Honestly, it's so much fun. And playing it. Do you play? Do you play guitar? Is that right?
Actually, I'm a vocalist and writer.
You're just vocals mainly, are you?
Yes.
And writing.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah.
Do you plan on writing a book ever?
No, I hadn't thought about that.
One of your fans asked me to ask you about that. Do you have a plan to do an autobiography with some of your experiences? So I thought I'd ask.
Really? Well, it's not something I'd ever thought of. I mean, I must say I do love writing. It's a lot of fun, journals and things like that. I'm not very good at it, but
Right.
I suppose it doesn't matter, does it? I suppose if you're writing it in your own words.
It sounds like you would have a heck of a lot to say as far as, you did over 500 gigs with Les. That's a lot of stories and thoughts and memories.
I've got loads to say, but it's not always very interesting.
Right. Well, and plus your own life. So I don't know, something to ponder, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really nice question. I'll remember that.
Yeah, I really appreciate talking with you. I'm really looking forward to getting a copy of the tribute so we can play it for the fans on the air. And it's marvelous talking with you. It was interesting reading about all the stuff you had done with Les, and of course your own music over the years. It's always fun finding out about a fellow musician, and it's just
likewise. Likewise. I mean, I've been, because I saw you come up on Facebook, and I was like, okay, right, let's, I need to have a look. It's like, whoa. So, some of the bands and things you've done have looked fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Well, I hope that you get many more interviews. I hope that the CD does well and a lot of the fans get the closure they need. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to appear on the Church of Rock radio show.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hope to talk to you in the future, and best of luck.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay, take care.
Cheers then. Bye now.
Cheers.
Is that it? Are we off?